Nico Paz looks set to return to Real Madrid. Let's discuss whether this makes sense. So, for those unfamiliar, Nico Paz, he's 20 years old, he's Argentine, he's already got a couple of caps for Argentina as it happens, and he's playing currently for Como in Italy under the guidance of Cesc Fabregas. He's had an outstanding season in Italy, and Cesc Fabregas and the Italian press have waxed lyrical about him. He even won the award, I think it was under 23 or under 24 player of the season in Italy. So he's doing good things over there. And in doing so, he's managed to score 6 goals and provide a further 9 assists, which is incredible. The question is it worth it? On the face of it, it looks like a no-brainer because you think 8 to 9 million euros, which would be the fee that Real would have to pay in order to bring him back this season. It's not a great deal of money, and you're getting a player who has performed admirably this season. He's shown that he is capable, and that's, with all due respect, playing for Como. At Real Madrid, he would have better players around him. However, what kind of player is Nico Paz? Because I remember when he played for Real Madrid, I was perhaps guilty, and you might be too, of pigeonholing him into the Marco Asensio bracket. The technical footballer with an absolute wand of a left foot who occasionally might stick the ball in at the top corner from outside the box. The problem is that Marco Asensio's career has been almost defined by that. He lives on memories. We all remember him curling the ball in from distance against Barcelona. But when you look at his actual career, that happens once every 10 games. And when you're playing for a team like Real Madrid, those games in between are noticeable because you're not contributing anything. And if he's in that bracket, then I don't think that he's the answer because as much as I am not a big fan of Rodrigo, I don't think that Nico Paz is a massive upgrade in that position. However, I believe that I was a little bit mistaken, and I owe a lot, in fact, to Cesc Fabregas because he has not spent his season playing from the right wing. Yes, he's drifted out there occasionally, but predominantly, Cesc Fabregas has used Nico Paz centrally. In Spain, they call them interiores, and this is something which has been used to label Arda Güler, Luka Modric. They're players that play in the middle. They're players that can break the lines and create. And once you start to think about Nico Paz as a player who is capable of doing those sort of things, it starts to make a little bit more sense because, yes, you've got the likes of Arda Güler and Jude Bellingham, but everyone's crying out for someone to take the place of a Luka Modric. Now, I'm not suggesting for 1 second that he comes even close to tying Luka Modric's boots, but in terms of quality. But he is, say, for example, an upgrade on the likes of Dani Ceballos. And with Nico Paz, we're talking about a player who, I'll try and put the heat map up on the screen because this is incredible. He drops deep, he collects the ball, he brings the ball forward. He is the modern 8. And in the modern game, this is something that teams really need because it does provide a bit of a difference. It provides a bridge from the back to the front. Now, if we're thinking about this logistically in terms of Real Madrid, does he get into this team? I do believe that there is an opportunity. I do think that you do have to sell Dani Ceballos because why would you want him blocking his path to the first team? Get his wages off the books. I'm sure that there'll be a team in La Liga, with all due respect, that will take him off our hands. And by doing so, you give this lad a bit of a chance because the last thing that you want, and I know that this is the top comment that comes out every single time, don't go to Madrid, you'll kill your career, you'll sit on the bench, you won't get any minutes. And to an extent, sometimes it is true. If you look at the minutes from Endrick and Arda Güler, for example, over the course of the season, it's shocking, isn't it? And you could point the finger at Carlo Ancelotti and say that he doesn't like rotations, and he clearly didn't trust them for massive parts of the season. And in Endrick's defence, he was up against Kylian Mbappe for replacing that team, and he was never taking that, was he? But in the case of Nico Paz, I do believe that you've got a dynamic modern 8, And that is something that we do have at Real Madrid, but we could do with having more, because he does contribute with those progressive passes. And as you can see from his time in one season in Italy, he delivers with the assists and the goals. And I know it's not all about stats, it is about the eye test as well, but it does help to have those contributions. And the likes of Fede Valverde, for example, for all the huff and the puff, there isn't a lot of end product. Yes, occasionally he scores an absolute worldie, but it isn't the consistency that we need. I'm not suggesting that Nico Paz comes in for Fede Valverde. I'm just suggesting that you've got an option. It's a little bit of a Swiss Army knife that you can bring onto the pitch that can break those lines, thread those passes. And he's shown that he's got a lot of character to go over there and take up this new challenge. Says a lot about a player. But let me know what you think. Personally, in my opinion, for 8 million euros, I take him. However, I do that only if Dani Ceballos is sold, because I think that you're just... One of the reasons that Luka Modric's contract wasn't renewed is because it blocks a path to the first team for the likes of Arda Güler. And that's another one. He would have a lot of competition with Arda Güler, but maybe we can create that more technical midfield. I'm not trying to turn us into Barcelona, by the way, I promise. But these teams across Europe are showing us the way. They're showing us that you do need to move past the traditional six, and you do need to have that fully functioning midfield that's dynamic, that can interchange positions comfortably and can drive the team forward. And it helps to have technicians. So maybe you can line up games with Arda Güler and Nico Paz in the centre of your midfield. And more to the point, I'm not sticking this guy on the right wing. I'm not hanging him out to dry because I don't think he's got it in him. He might well do. He might prove me wrong. But the idea of him working in the centre appeals a lot more to me. If you agree with anything that I've said today, or maybe you disagree profoundly, doesn't matter. Stick it in the comments below. Let's have a chat about it. Because undoubtedly, we've all got our own opinions about how best to improve this side. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you.